Hello, what's up, guys? This is Jouni Juurela from Floorball Made Simple, and today we are gonna talk about intensity and volume of the game. Somebody might get a good impression on what the intensity means, but what the volume means. This is my take on that precise subject. But in the beginning, before we go to the subject, I need to point out that we have had this individual improvement process campaign going on, and we were looking for international players from different countries, men, women, boys, and girls that want to participate in an individual improvement process with me, where we assess the players' strengths, weaknesses, points to improve, and what could be the next steps on their learning. And I have the utmost privilege to be coaching personally players from these countries. So you can take this as a small geography quiz also, but the countries where the players are participating are Sweden, Burkina Faso, Togo, Madagascar, Norway, Denmark, and Canada. And the range of players differs between on their level. Someone is a beginner, and there are few elite, adult, and youth U19 players. If you would like to participate in such process with me, please hit me up on my socials, and we can figure out how I could help you. But then the terminology between intensity and volume, these are more common terms used on physical training, and especially in weight training, strength training. But I think that these can be applied into floorball, and these make a whole lot of sense in floorball training as well. Intensity is rather used term in floorball training. It basically means that it defines the frequency and quality of actions per a short period of time, right? So basically exactly the same as in strength training. In floorball context, that period of time could be a shift, a period, some minute amount of the period throughout the whole match, and then it can be applied into the training as well. And in my opinion, that is the more important part, the time duration of intensity in the training. It can be minutes inside the training session, shift inside the training session, or a longer period of time per session. And like in the physical training department, volume means the sum of the intensive moments within that whole longer period. So it means basically when you add up all of those intensive moments, it is the sum of all of those. So how the team is able to maintain that intensity, and how much total time of intensity is performed during the whole game or training. And then what creates the intensity in floorball? It is not only about running around and rushing around with a full head of steam and your tongue slipping down to your knees on the field, and it does not mean that. Of course, it requires a lot of effort and commitment, but it is way more, and you can describe that in way more precise terms and aspects as well. The speed of the play is a really good factor and a measurement for intensity. And speed can be created through way more ways than only running and effort in the game. It can be the running speed, because that is an important factor of how fast you are going to the situations, how fast are you running to win your player and your marker, and so on. But then the quick decisions. How fast are your players able to make those decisions in the field? If they have to think a lot before the decision and there are those individual delays, that will decrease the intensity of the play. If those happen in a faster manner, everything will start to be more faster and the actions will take more rapidly, and thus the intensity will increase. The speed of the ball, that comes down to the passing. The good first touches, the speed of the passes, how tough those passes are, the accuracy of the passes. Are the passes going to a still movement, or are they placed a little more advanced to a direction where the player is about to move? So is the pass placed in a place where the player is now, or a little to the future? That can increase the speed as well. And then the anticipation side is really important as well. So are the players able to anticipate their next moves, which will decrease the delays of their decisions as well. Then the amount of goal scoring or goal preventing actions. So you can have loads of intensity either when you are attacking or you are defending. We will talk about that a little later, but if you are attacking, the number and frequency of cutting passes, cutting movements without the ball, the amount of shots and preventing all of these and driving with the ball to the goal scoring areas, these, in my opinion, increase intensity, because if your team is only circulating the ball just around the outer flanks, in my opinion, that is not a high intensity. If you are going to the core, to the center and to the goal scoring areas, that adds up to the intensity. And then it requires some effort. So effort and willingness to win those 1v1 situations and 1v1 duels is an important factor on the intensity as well. There are those open ball or loose ball situations sometimes when the ball is not recovered by either one of those players in the 1v1. So how are you able to go with full effort and win those open balls to yourself? And then the exact physicality in the 1v1 situations, that you are playing with your body and you are taking those little hits and to the opponent, and then playing physically. That is an important factor as well. And the playing positions and body directions can crank up the intensity if those are done well. And this is what creates the total volume of your team play. Exactly the same as in the physical training department. How high is the peak intensity moments? That basically means that what are those best moments when you are able to perform those things in the previous slide to keep up and crank up the intensity. When did those peak intensity moments occur, and how long were you able to maintain that desired level of intensity? Because that varies up with every single team in their training sessions and games. Sometimes they go super high on the intensity, and sometimes it goes dipping down a little bit, and then you have somewhere in the between your routine level of intensity. And also those bottom moments, I'm calling those the dipping moments, when the intensity drops a little lower. How low does that go in those moments? So what's the difference between the highest and the lowest moment, and where is your bar hanging there in the routine intensity in between? And how well your team is able to respond to opponents' intensity in the game. So if another team is attacking and they're trying to perform all those goal scoring actions and contributing on scoring, you need to be able to respond to that. And you can have more intensity when you are defending than the attacking team has when they have the ball. And what happens in the crunch time in the games? Like the last 10 minutes or so, when you are fighting to win the game, what happens to the intensity? Does it go higher? Does it stay in the same level, or does it go lower? It can happen in any of those directions, but you want to be playing in the peak moments when it comes to crunch time. And then the shifting of momentum in the games. Momentum is a more of a how do you say it, everyday used terminology, and more simplistic one, but it means basically that which team is controlling the game, and that intensity and volume relate to that matter quite much. And it is natural that the momentum will shift between the teams in the team sports, because there are two teams, right? Another one is trying to control in one way or another the game, and you need to be able to respond that and have more momentum in the game than the opponent. And when you get the momentum moment in the game, you need to be in a as high peak level in that intensity as possible, so you will get the most out of that momentum in the game. And momentum can be grabbed in the game with either defensive or offensive actions. You can control the momentum through the defensive actions totally as well, because if your opponent will create that demand for the defend with their high intensity attacking, if you are able to respond to that with your actions on the defense, that they be even more intense, that can decrease their momentum and get the air out of their system, and you are able to get the control back by defending. And then you need to always, whether you have the ball or not, you need to create that intensity to a level that the opponent cannot respond to that. And so you will get the upper hand in the game, whether you have the ball or not. And then everybody wants to increase the intensity of the team, but how that is actually done? It is not an easy thing to do, but it's totally learnable. And I emphasize the word learnable. Intensity is partly related to the attitude, effort, and commitment to everyone in the session. It can be the speed of the play, playing in the 1v1 duels, but the mental landscape and commitment and attitude relates to that quite much, because if you're not trying, intensity is rather hard to maintain and grasp. Intensity of the game can improve by individual skill sets, because if your players have more skill to be a threat and contribute on scoring, that will make your attacking actions harder to defend, which will more likely increase the intensity. Intensity doesn't magically appear into the games, it needs to be learned through practice. And by this I mean that if you want to reach the high levels of floorball, it needs to be learned through the practice. So you just cannot go play around in the practice and then just expect for the intensity to magically appear to the games. It is more of making it a sort of a trait, a character trait for your team, that this comes to the games even if you are not thinking about it. So it needs to become a trait that you are accustomed to, making those intensive moments. Once the intensity starts to increase during the training sessions, it is more likely to reach the same level within the games, and the time and duration of the intensity, of how high are you able to go on the intensity, how long are you able to maintain that intensity, and where is the lowest point, that equation will create the landscape for your intensity in the games as well. And the purpose of this slide is to showcase that we everyone have our own role on the intensity and providing it to the play. So it does not only come down to the players or only to the coaches. We everyone have a role on that, but you can define the responsibilities to certain roles in the team on how they can improve the intensity, and this slide tells how players can have an impact on that matter. Are you playing around in the training sessions, or are you really competing? Are you trying to get better in the training sessions? Are you trying to win? And are you really committing yourself on creating that intensity in the training? Every player needs to find their own way on contributing to the intensity of the training session through your own strengths and by that what kind of player you are. Some ones are more of those fighters that will create the intensity through their effort and commitment to the speed of the play, and somebody might be a skill player. So you can still crank up the intensity as a skill player if you do those skill bits in the game in a way that it increases the intensity. For example, if you contribute a lot on that scoring side and your frequency on those goal contribution actions is higher, that is your way to contribute on that. But you still need some level of effort as well. Players need to be able to lift up the peak intensity moments in the practices, so you need to be able to always push it even higher and higher on those peak intensity moments, on how high are you able to go as an individual. Because if there are 20 individuals in the training session and they all can push the bar way higher time and time after again, that will create a trait for your team. And once that peak level is pushed even higher, you should try to maintain that same peak intensity level for as high duration as possible. And then you should reach the better levels in that dipping moment, in that lowest moment of that intensity, so you are still as intensive enough in the situations, even you have a worse or a lower moment in the training session or a game. And demanding quality from yourself and commitment from yourself and from each other as a player unit, that is a really important factor. And every single team that has won something in every single sport, they always seem to tell the players after the story they've had that we were pushing each other's forward. And personally, the player was pushing him or herself forward. And then the coach's role on intensity. So this describes what the coach can do to crank up the intensity, and it is actually your core responsibility as a coach. If the team is not yet accustomed to some level of intensity you decide them to be, and if it does not come naturally, you are the one that should be the most responsible for pushing them up. You need to have the vision of where the team wants to go, and if your team wants to reach better levels and higher rankings in your league, or want to be lifted to another league higher, you need to be the one that showcases that where the limit goes and where you need to be on that intensity standpoint. Coach needs to demonstrate the level of the desired intensity and push the team towards it. And coach's own commitment and effort will spread to the team as well. So you just cannot, for example, this is a blunt example, but if you are telling the players that you need to be so intensive and so on, and then you come to the practice like 5 minutes before the session starts, and you're still thinking of what kind of drills you are going to use in the training during the practice, that will give an image to the players that this guy is not committed to our goal. So if you do that planning side and everything, your instructions, your visions, and everything about the content of the training, if that is well organized and planned in advance, that will give the image that, hey, this person actually is committed to the goal, so everybody will come along. So you will have to lead from the front, as they say. Demanding, explaining, selling, and demonstrating to the team is a core action for you to get the team committed to the intensity. And why I described those verbs on that, what you need to be doing, you need to be the one demanding. If the level of the intensity starts to dip, or it is not as high as you want in the peak moments, you need to be able to explain that what is happening, why this is not in the level, and what is the level that we want to achieve. Then you need to be able to sell your vision to the players, that why they need to crank up the intensity or so, and what effect that will have on the team play if they do so. So you need to be able to convince the team to do something that might not come naturally to them, and if they do that, you need to be able to demonstrate what is the end goal, or the end result that we will get if we train with a bad intensity, and what we will get if we train with a good intensity. And because you're a coach, you're standing in the sidelines of the field, you are able to recognize better the different levels of intensity in the training session or a game. You are able to recognize better those best moments for how long they last, those routine intensity moments, and then those dipping moments, because you can see it from a better view. So you need to be able to describe all of these different levels of intensity to the players and show the benefits to them. And the best training sessions I have ever seen on floorball fields are at the same time. They are a battleground with a high effort and high level of speed and commitment to the 1 versus 1 duels, but at the same time there is a teaching moment where you're trying to get your point across and improve the game in the tactical or skillful sense as well. So this is just very bluntly put, but if you are only focusing on either one of those, if there is only a battleground with no purpose on the learning, that is not a good way to learn the floorball specific skillful intensity. And if it is only a lecture or a teaching moment, the competition side and being competitive will be harder for the players. So try to combine both of those points of view, and you will get a phenomenal intensity on the training. And then the intensity in the youth teams, because I demonstrate this only if there are some youth players watching this video or coaches working with youth teams. You can start to develop the intensity and learn it and teach it in very early stages with the juniors as well. But the ways on how you implement that differ quite a lot according to the stage of your team, of where they are in their playing career so far. So in the youth teams, it is more about teaching, showcasing, and explaining the different aspects of the intensity progressively from as early age as possible. It is more about teaching the skill side, decision-making side, and game intelligence side that will crank up the intensity in the training. It is all about teaching the importance of the effort, commitment, and maxing out your capabilities from as early age as possible. And if the competitiveness side comes as a total surprise when they are 18-year-olds and when they approach the adult teams, if they have not been accustomed to creating that intensity in the youth teams before that, that will be a huge surprise to them when they approach the adult teams, because adult teams at high levels are very competitive. So try to learn and teach these different aspects to the players, and it is important for you to be able to describe to those youngsters, even from as young as possible, that what is the peak intensity moment, what is the routine level where they are right now, and what is the bottom moment. But how you are bettering that moment, it differs quite a lot. With the youth teams, it is not only you're ordering them, now you need to go there and now you need to do this better and that, and then you cannot throw a trash can to the wall and shout to them. You need to have more patience, those teaching and learning abilities, and you need to be pointing out more of those skillful and decision-making parts on that intensity and how to increase that. Of course, you need to be able to convince them to give the best possible effort and commitment to the training session, but it is more about choosing the right way how you can crank up the intensity with the youngsters as well. And then to sum it up, the key takeaways. It all starts from the training sessions, so you need to be able to create that peak intensity moment, the routine level of intensity, and to increase the level in the lowest intensity moments in the training sessions, and that creates the total volume of intensity on your team play. Crank up the intensity in different periods of time. Those can be a singular or a solo shift per some few shifts in the game, per some period of time, a period or a game. But you need to start from the smaller description of a time and then increase progressively to the larger durations of time. Encourage players to commit to the high intensity and then light up those guys and girls if they are committing and creating that high intensity. So you need to praise them when the desired level of intensity is reached. Focus also to the skill related intensity factors, because the skill side of how the ball is moving, how fast it is moving, how much they contribute to the scoring, and how their body directions are going, etc. If they're doing those small bits well, that will crank up the intensity in the long term. Each member of the staff and the player squad needs to have their own role on contributing to the intensity. Talk through these things in a transparent way with all the players, with all the coaching staff, and agree together to these factors, because if everybody knows their responsibility on and how they can contribute to a certain matter, they are the commitment side. It just comes naturally because they have agreed to it, so they will contribute more into that factor. And then start to push the intensity up from as young youth teams as possible, and be clever on what you focus on the intensity in each age group. You can find loads of ways on how to crank up the intensity even from the very small teams, but have some wit and cleverness on how you increase it with the young teams. And so this was our video for today. This is a really important topic, so please, if you like the video, share this to your team or to your colleagues or to other coaches in your club, so they can also watch this video. This is a super important topic. If you like the content, like the video, subscribe to our channel and follow us on socials at Floorball Made Simple in Instagram. And if you have any questions to the topic, please don't hesitate to contact me. I am more than happy to help. Thanks for watching. Bye.